Blog Talk Radio. I usually start off the show by saying good morning, good afternoon, and good night, because I'm not sure when you're listening to the show, the LMP show, Late Night Parent Radio, exclusively on Happy Hour Network and streamed out via the podcast to our radio partners. I am Ted Hicks. Some refer to me as the real Ted Hicks. Some people refer to me as one of the folks behind Late Night Parent Twitter handle. Some people refer to me as facebook.com/Late Night Parents. But most importantly, people refer to me as Dad. The most important people in my life, or, the loving husband. Though sometimes I'm in the doghouse and I don't hear that too much, but mostly it's Dad. So I want to welcome everyone to the LMP show. Every week we get at you. We discuss the latest trends with game changes in parenting, technology, education, sports, and, here and now we do a product review. And we've got a great show tonight. We've named it Blended for so many different reasons. Because at the top of the hour, 5 minutes past the hour, we have the wonderful Carney, author, co-host, parent of the book Wicked Not. And at 30 minutes past the hour, we have none other than your friend of mine, H5. For those that don't know him, his name is Hezzie McCaleb. He goes under the Twitter handle Genuinely H5, and we usually chop it up with him to talk about his show, The Filthy Dish. And we have so many different plans and things, but as you know, life tends to get in the way. So before we even get started with that, I want to give a shout out to some of our radio partners. And we're going to start in Philadelphia, FSC Radio, Raheem, we see you. UNRL1 Radio, Scott Price. Brian Ho in Edmonton. Our good friends, Bobby Blackjack, I-95 Sports. As always, Ralph, NGSC. And, we're local, but we're also abroad, and we got to shout out our friends in New Zealand, Cindy, Starlight Entertainment Radio, and also in the UK and Melbourne, Australia. We got to shout out to none other than XRP Radio. Tiz, we see you as always. Thank you for believing in us. I think last week we had a couple of new partners join us. One was Cyberstation USA in Massachusetts, and the lovely Alicia Stern, who's here in New York with me at TRS 24/7 Radio, soon to be TRS 24/7 PR. The good folks in New York, I want to thank you to Alicia, for all the folks that have reached out to me this week, not only because of our interview and the time that we sat and talked, but folks that want to contribute to the radio show. So we really appreciate you. As I mentioned, we're going to have Carney in here shortly. Want to say a quick hello to our friends that are always so helpful to the show, Lunchbox Buddies. We see you out there. And our answer is yes, we want to have you come on the show. The Gridiron Mo app, we had originally had you scheduled for tonight, but I think it's apropos that we have you come on for our Super Bowl show, which is next Wednesday. So we're going to have the good folks behind that mobile app. Tonight we're going to also talk about our friends Icy Hot Smart Relief. I want to thank the folks there as they sent me one of their products. We also want to give a quick shout out to our friends at 0 to 3. They introduced the free Babies on the Homefront parenting app for our military and veteran families. We'll be talking about that later on tonight, coming out of Washington, D.C. Proud to be affiliated with you guys on Babies on the Homefront. Like I said, we're going to be talking with you and hopefully in the future talking with Dr. Dorinda Silver Williams, who's the Director of Military Family Projects. We're going to be talking with those folks. So I guess without further ado, someone that I saw on Fox Good Day New York, I would say about 3 or so weeks ago, she goes by the name of Holly Carney. I saw a wonderful segment at 5:30 in the morning, and I felt it was needed to have her come on to our little show. I like to call it a little show. We have our partners, our radio partners and everything else. I want to remain grounded. But I was really excited to hear her with the folks on Good Day New York. And I want to thank personally, before we even get started with the interview, our good friend Juliet Huddy, who made this interview happen. And it just shows you about the power of Twitter. Once again, being connected, contacting people, them reaching back out to you. It's an open and transparent society nowadays. So I saw this piece on Holly. Holly, how are you doing? Hi,
Ted. Thanks for having me on. I'm good.
Hey,
I'm in sunny California.
Wonderful. It's, we're here in New York, and you got a little bit of the New York weather a few weeks ago when you visited us out here.
Yeah, it was very, very, very cold, but I was prepared for it this time. I was ready to go, yeah. I flew out with my son Luke, and we had hats and gloves, and we're ready.
That's great. I want to give our friends that are listening live tonight and through the podcast, Holly, a little backstory on how I got to know Holly Carney. And Holly, please don't blush, okay? So it was, I'm going to say between 5 and 6 in the morning. I'm up every morning watching one of my favorite programs, Good Day New York. And one of my favorite co-hosts, Juliet Huddy, and there was a segment, Stepmoms and Blended Families, and I was like, wow, that's really interesting. And, I kind of started to think about, I said, well, our show, Late Night Parents, and we talk about all these different types of topics. And something just moved me later on that morning when I got on the train. So I got on the Long Island Railroad, and I said, how do I find out the person that was on, how do I reach out to her? And I sent a message, a tweet to Juliet Huddy, and she was so kind to respond back within minutes with not only a response, but with your name, your PR person, everything, all the above. And, I'm so grateful to that. But enough about me, more about you. This is your show, as in, we let all of our guests in the driver's seat. I kind of move over to the passenger seat and say, Holly Carney, tell us about how we got to Wicked Knot.
Okay. Well, first I want to give credit to that morning show. They're a really neat team. And my husband's best friend, Steve Weatherford, has been on that show with them, I think, for a couple of years now. And he was helping to host, I think, the sports program. And he knew that my son and I were really working hard to launch Wicked Knot. And we had started in November when my husband, John Carney, was inducted into the New Orleans Saints Hall of Fame, we kind of did a soft launch out in New Orleans because we know all the media, and we have tons of friends there, beloved friends, after living there for a decade, really. And so Steve Weatherford said, I'm hosting this show the week before Christmas. You guys have to come out. And I'm like, the week before Christmas? That's crazy, because we knew there was a storm front coming in, and we were advised all travelers would be stuck on Christmas Eve. So Steve insisted we come in, and we flew in on the 22nd and flew back out the 23rd. So you did see me at 5 in the morning. I think Luke and I had 2 hours sleep.
Wow.
And there we were to share our story. We feel it's an important story. It's imperative to get it out there, and it is about stepmothers and their relationship with their children. And this Wicked Knot is the first of a series of books that I've written. And to be honest with you, Ted, I started this project 7 years ago, and it's finally at the point of takeoff. And it's out there now, and we're really excited about it. So I really appreciate you reaching out to Juliet and getting a hold of us so we can continue to get the message out there. It's a hot topic. It's an emotional topic. And over the years, as I've shared with different people, I don't think I've been clear, but it's a children's series. It's a children's book. It's a whimsical children's book. The first one is from the stepmother's perspective. And it's a twist, because you never really hear from the stepmother. She does not have a voice. For centuries, she's never had a voice. And so, anyways, thank you for pursuing this conversation further and having me on tonight. I really appreciate it.
Oh, as I've said before, it's my pleasure. And first and foremost, we talk tech, we talk education. Several weeks we've talked Common Core. We've talked with next week we have the wonderful Kristen Parmalee, who's going to be on here. Her son has dyslexia, and guess what? She did something about it. And so her team put together a mobile app to help children with dyslexia. So we have so many different stories and folks that we reach out to every week, and it just moved me when I saw your appearance on it, because it is a touchy topic. It is something where you're kind of like, oh, well, it's so many folks are caught up on the conventional families. But what about the blended families? What about the stepmoms and the stepdads that are out there? And it's wonderful that it's a children's tale, because when things like that happen, when families, let's just say whether there's a divorce happens and a parent remarries, who's the person that's most affected? It's the child. It's the child that's affected, and so we need to hear that other children need to be able to understand, and the fact that you wrote a book and it's going to be a series is really key. And I got to tell you, because me, for one, at the age of 2, my biological mom passed away, and my dad got remarried. So it was a situation where I'm kind of like going along with it. And at the time, my older sister, she wasn't. So it was a situation where, I was young enough that I was able to adjust to my stepmom.
How old was
my older sister?
Just the two of you?
Right. It was just the two of us.
And how old was she when the marriage?
It was 1974. My sister is 6 years older.
Oh, so, dear. Right.
Yeah, so it was I was around 6, and my sister was almost 12 at the time, because we're about 5.5 years apart, which ironically, Holly, my son and my daughter are 5.5 years apart, just like my sister and I.
Oh, wow, right.
So
that's awesome.
I kind of know, I can walk in those footsteps to see, some of the things that happened, some of the things that, impacted our lives. So the fact of the matter is that you're stepping out to do this. It's beautiful, number one, and it's needed. It's needed.
Well, thank you. just speaking about that, the first book, Wicked Not, is from my perspective. The second one, Wicked Never, is from Luke's perspective, addressing the issues. You had a different issue. Your stepmother was stepping into a role that wasn't going to be challenged.